Hi, welcome to Chris Cook for YouTube. Let's get started with today's recipe. Okay, now today I'm making bacon, onion, skillet bread. This recipe was going to go on my corned beef and cabbage dish. But the reason why I could not post it there is because I decided halfway into the corned beef and cabbage video that I was going to show you 2 ways to make corned beef and cabbage. So that means that not only did I cook my corned beef and cabbage and then I shredded the corned beef on one part of that video, then I decided to roast the corned beef and make it with potatoes and carrots on the other side of the video. So that would have been too long of a video if I had made this bread. So I decided to do this bread separately. Now I'm going to post this bread first. And then after posting the bread, the next video you see will be the corned beef and cabbage done 2 separate ways. So let's get started with the ingredients that you're going to need. You're going to need cornmeal mix. Now, cornmeal mix has your baking powder, your salt, a little bit of flour, and of course your cornmeal mix, your cornmeal in it. So you don't need to do anything but just put this in a bowl and go ahead and make your corn bread, with the exception of just adding, some milk, a little bit of water, and some eggs. But everything that you need as far as a dry ingredient is already mixed in here. So we're going to use this. You'll need water. This is some carnation milk, but you can use regular milk. And this is just 2 tablespoons of that. And I find that you don't get as much of a grainier taste if you use some type of milk in it. So you don't need to use a lot because it can depend on the water as a liquid. But you do need to use some. So this is about 2 tablespoons full egg. Now, I've already chopped up my onion. And as you can see, this is a very small chop. It's not minced, but it's a very small chop. Now, I have 5 strips of bacon here. And what I'm going to do with this bacon, I'm going to cut this bacon into 1-inch pieces. And I have all 5 slices of the bacon. I have it layered together. Now we know, even though I'm cutting this in 1-inch pieces, that by the time I cook it, because I am going to saute this with the onions, but by the time I cook it, it's going to really just, it's going to drizzle down to be less than a 1/2 inch. So you're just going to get, and that's all you want to do. You just want to get tastes, small tastes of the bacon mixed with the onions over in the cornbread, and I think that it's a good complement to the corned beef and the cabbage. Now, this is going to be cooked on top of the stove. I thought about doing this 2 ways. I thought about making just one big round skillet piece of bread and then flipping it over, but I decided that may be a little hard for my beginner cooks, so I'm just gonna make it into like pancake patties. If that'll be a better way for them to understand what it is. If you choose to make it the other way, go ahead and do it. If not, I'm just going to do it in pancake patties. So I'm going to meet you at the stove, saute up this bacon and these onions. Then I'll be right back and we'll put together this cornbread mix in order to fry it up in the skillet so we can have it with the corned beef and cabbage. Be right back. Okay, now I'm at the stove and I'm putting my pieces of bacon into my skillet. And this is my Chef Delicia skillet. And I'm using it because it has a non-stick coating on it. So I don't expect this bacon to stick. Now I'm not going to use any kind of oils in here. Not because it's a non-stick skillet, but because I'm getting all of my oil liquids from my bacon. Because, bacon is a high source of fat. So I'm getting a lot of my oil liquids from that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use that in order to put the onions, which I have already cut up, on top of that. So I'm going to fry this just for about maybe a half a minute, slightly flip it on the other side. Now you don't have to have this crispy. That's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for a softness and taste. So when you bite into it, it will have the same feel that you would get in your mouth as if you were biting into the cabbage, because all of that you're going to be chewing it together. So you want to make certain that all of it kind of goes together. Now you can see that liquid. See the oils that's starting to come from the bacon. So that means that I don't need to add any oil down in this at all. And when you're cooking your bacon, make certain, especially when you're using a non-stick pan, that you use a wooden utensil in order to stir it with or to flip it with. You don't want to use anything that has metal in it, because if you do, you're going to mess up this skillet. And this is a very good skillet. I'm going to step in front of the camera for just a minute because I wanted to get another one. This is a very good skillet, and like I said, it was from I got it from Chef Delicia, and I did do kind of a slight infomercial for them. So if you're interested in getting one, I will have that posted at the bottom of this page. Okay. Now, when I've turned it, and I told you that you were going to get shrinkage. You're going to get that when you're dealing with bacon, period. Okay? So now that I've started to get just a little bit of the juices, then I'm going to go ahead and add my onions to that. Now what my onions will do is they will depend on the oils that come from the bacon in order to cook up. So I'm going to cook this for about 3 or 4 minutes, and what I'll do is when I get this sauteed enough to just put it over into my cornbread mix that I'm going to be making in order to make my patties, I'll bring it right back. Okay, now I'm back and I fried up my bacon and my onions. This is already ready for me to put into my my cornbread. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll dish this up, and I'll meet you back at the table. Be right back. Okay, now I'm at my table, and what I'm doing is just adding my cornmeal mix to this. This is a 1/4 scoop, and because I'm heaping it up, I'm using like about half a cup scoops of cornmeal. But what I will do is I will put your ingredients at the bottom. Now I have this milk here, and I have my water. So I'm going to go ahead to that, and I'm going to add my milk. I'm going to add about a half a cup of water, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my egg. Now I'm going to mix this. If this is not enough, then I'll take it up, because I have 1 cup of water over here to work with. You know, I don't believe in throwing away nothing, so I'm going to get that little bit of milk out of that container. So basically what you saw me use is like 2 cups of cornmeal. Now, I want you to look at the consistency of this. This is thick, but this is the way you want it. You want it thick. You don't want it thin or runny, because it will not make good cornbread patties if it's thin or runny. Now this is my sauteed onion and my sauteed bacon. Now you don't have to use this if you don't want to. I'm just telling you something that will go good with your cabbage. Okay. Now you want to incorporate all of that as best you can. You want to make sure that everything is in, because this is going to get involved very, very good flavor. Now, you do not want to have this any thinner than what you see here. You don't want to have it runny. You want to have it thick. because you want those patties when they hit that grease to be able to hold together. Okay, now this is good for beans, it's good for greens, it's good for cabbage, it's good for any of that. You can use it with anything that you cooking. We can be versatile in our cooking. You don't just have to stick to a standard or stick to a recipe, because sometimes you wonder in your mind, I wonder how this would taste if I put this or that in it. Well, this is your opportunity to see. Okay, now this is ready. I'm going to wait 5 minutes because I want this to swell. That baking powder that's already in there that came from the cornmeal mix, I want it to swell to help thicken this up. So I'm going to wait 5 minutes before I start to put this in the skillet. I will meet you at the stove and we will fry this up. Be right back. Okay, now it's been 5 minutes and I'm back at my stove. So now I want to just spoon it down into my bread. I want to spoon it down into my skillet. But you see, it's already holding together real well. That's why I said you don't want it thick. I'm sorry, you don't want it thin. I'm sorry, you want it thick. And I'm telling you, when it comes to eating cabbage and things of that nature, you can't beat this. And this is really old school. My mom used to do this back in the day. Okay. So, my skillet is big enough for me to get 4 patties, and I probably could have got 5 if I had made them a little bit smaller, but I didn't. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have enough of your cooking oil circulating around your patties in order to make certain that they're cooking evenly. So this is, and you don't want your stove too high. I have my stove on a medium. If you see that you cannot control a medium, then turn it down a little bit. Every time you're cooking anything, you want to be able to control that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away, let this brown on that side, and when I get ready to flip it, I will be right back. Be right back. Okay, I'm going to flip this, and because I don't want to use any wooden utensils down on my skillet, I'm going to use my spatula to help me flip it. At least I think that's what I'm going to do. There you go. Now when you flip it, you want to flatten it a little bit because you want to make certain that it's cooking all the way through. And something that I didn't mention is that this is used cooking oil, so if you need more cooking oil, like I do right now, if you have some used cooking oil, it's better. But you can use, you know, some new cooking oil if that's all you have. So I'm going to let this go ahead and cook. And I'm going to continue to mash just a little bit. And you don't want to cook it too fast, because if you cook it too fast, it will be brown on the outside, but on the inside it will not be done. So you want to keep it on that medium to medium low heat in order to cook. And it takes about, I don't know, maybe about 6-7 minutes in order to complete the cooking process. So I'll be back when I'm ready to take this out and put some more in, but by that time all of this should be cooked. Be right back. Okay, now this is done, so I'm going to go ahead and remove them from the skillet. Now, you see me putting my hand down on it, but I'm using my fingernail. I'm not using my actual hand. Okay. And that's just because this non-stick skillet, it's not the easiest thing to remove stuff from, but this is the only, pull flip it back. There you go. This is the only skillet that I can use in order to do this. Okay. Now, I have a little bit more cooking oil that I need to add to this. And again, that is used. Once I get it all around, then I'm going to go ahead and put in some more patties. But you see that once it sits, it thickens up even a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add this. And if they're not healthy, like high rising, if you kind of pat them down a little bit, like that, they'll cook. You'll make certain that they're done when they come out of the skillet. Because the lower the patty, then the less time it takes for it to cook. And the higher the patty, the longer the cooking time. Okay, you want to run that grease around again. Okay, then you want to allow this to cook. Okay, I'm going to let it cook another at least 3-4 minutes on this side before I flip it. Maybe 5 minutes. That's all within the right cooking time. And then when I get ready to flip it, I'll bring you right back. Okay, now we're back, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip these out of the pan as well. Now, if it's easier for you to use a metal spatula and use a metal skillet, then go ahead on and do that, okay? Because working with the spatula and a, well, with two spatulas, that might be a little bit hard for you to do. But I did it because I just don't want, I want it to be able to come out. I don't want it to stick at all. But what can prevent it from sticking is just making certain that you have enough cooking oil in the bottom of your skillet. Okay. Yeah. Now I broke that myself, which I'm not going to worry about it because somebody's going to eat it. Now flip the last one. And I'll wait for this to cook through. I'll add just a little bit more of my cooking oil. Okay, and I'll bring you back. There you have it, my bacon, onion, cornbread. And this is just turn over in the skillet cornbread, and it's going to go very, very well with my corned beef and cabbage recipe that's coming up right after this. Okay, that's what Chris has for you tonight. She's making the addition to the corned beef and cabbage. If you try it, I know you're going to enjoy it, especially if you love Southern food. And as always, thank you for watching Chris Cook for You Too. Bye.